Welcome to A Moment of Xen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Xen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Xen Sams.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Xen Sams, celebrating 6 incredible years on air and marking episode 246. Here's to another exciting episode. It's truly a pleasure spending my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for tuning in every Saturday night and for engaging with me on social media. That connection is what makes all of this worthwhile. Continue to follow me at Xen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And remember, all episodes stream Sundays at 2 p.m. on YouTube and on Your Home TV directly on our channel at mox.yourhometv.com. Welcome back to A Moment of Xen, where alongside our experts on the microphone, we explore film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, cannabis, fintech, and health, and yes, everything in between, always through the lens of the millennial mom perspective. Today's lineup fuels the body, the mind, and the heart. In the Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, we're joined by Kevin Lionel, clothing designer for the NHL, and Gabe Ihorn, entrepreneur, founder of the faith-based brand Praise, and creator of the platform Verified. We're chatting the faith frequency, how staying connected to a higher power unlocks creativity, discipline, and destiny. In our brand new Sculpting the Future segment, brought to you by Tigter Aesthetics, a global leader in regenerative medicine, we're joined by Caroline Van Hove, president of Tigter Aesthetics. Today, we're diving into adding volume and restoring confidence as we explore the breakthrough fat allograft filler that's transforming breasts, bodies, and the entire aesthetic industry. In the Better, Brighter You segment brought to you by Cyspera, we're cracking the code of pigmentation, chatting science, safety, and the new era of skin confidence with Dr. David Goldberg, a board-certified dermatologist, researcher, and director of cosmetic dermatology and clinical research at Schweiger Dermatology Group. In the We Play It Forward segment brought to you by the We Play It Forward Foundation, we're joined by Glenn O'Neill, president of the Cure Sanfilippo Foundation, and Cara O'Neill, pediatrician, chief science officer, and fierce advocate for families affected by childhood dementia. Childhood dementia is deemed terminal, but hope is more real than ever. Join us as we roadmap the race to save every child with Sanfilippo syndrome. Stay tuned for the brand new Sculpting the Future segment brought to you by Tigter Aesthetics. We're joined by Caroline Van Hove, president of Tigter Aesthetics. We're diving into adding volume and restoring confidence. You definitely want to tune in right here, 710, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Skin by Sari. Nationally recognized injector Sari Katz is redefining cosmetic treatments with an approach that's subtle, precise, and confidence-driven. Whether you're new to injectables or looking for an expert touch, Sari creates results that enhance your natural features. Never mask them. Discover what personalized aesthetics should feel like. To learn more, visit skinbysari.com or follow at skinbysari on Instagram.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Welcome back to the Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, because true hydration nourishes the body, mind, and of course, our spirit. Right now, we're diving into something that underpins elite performance and entrepreneurial success alike: faith, alignment, and connection to a higher power. Not religion, but that inner frequency, that higher vibration, that sense of purpose guiding you when the lights are brightest and when you're in the dark. Did you know that recent research found student athletes report higher levels of belief, behaviors, and identity relating to faith than non-athletes? Interesting. And another study found that among athletes, religious psychological factors explained roughly 21% of the variance in self-perceived performance. That tells us belief isn't soft. It's actually showing up in results. With us right now are two creators who live at the intersection of discipline and purpose. First, we have Kevin Lionel, clothing designer for the NHL, who's reimagining sports memorabilia through luxury design using rare fabrics, archival materials, and handcrafted techniques. And second, we have the amazing Gabe Einhorn, 23-year-old entrepreneur, founder of the faith-based brand Praise, creator of the platform Verified, moving with purpose across business and belief. We're going to be chatting faith frequency, how staying connected to a higher power unlocks creativity, discipline, and destiny. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is exciting.
Yeah. Kevin, all right, let's chat career and faith and that foundation. So you've operated at the highest levels in sport and now in design, but both actually require relentless discipline and a strong mindset. So I want to begin by exploring how you tapped into something beyond yourself very early on. So can you take us back to an early moment in your athlete or design journey when you recognized, well, this is meant for me, the timing is right, and explain how your belief or connection to that higher power helped you recognize that path?
So to take it back, I want to go back to when I was like 6 years old, and the first sport I grew up playing was baseball. And at the time, I knew there was a calling for me there, because when we were playing t-ball, I was the only kid on the team that was actually able to hit the ball really well and just run the bases well. And at that moment, I realized there was something more that I couldn't explain that I was just meant to do. So growing up, playing baseball and just really tapping into my creativity through sports, it really allowed me to really understand that there's more than just being a great player. There's something there's a frequency you got to tap into that allows you to be successful in what you do. And I feel like as the years went on and the career choices I was going towards, I've always tapped into the frequency of what felt best when I was either playing a sport or designing. And I have to say that as the years went on and I really started to figure things out, the frequency, or I like to say flow state, of allowing myself to do what comes to me naturally is the best way to tap into it. Like with me right now in designing, me being able to just pick up a sewing machine and trying out a new skill I've never tried before, that was my North Star. I didn't know where it was going to lead me to, but it allowed me to take a direction that I've never done just because it came naturally. Like when you know that something's meant for you, not only would you perform at it really easily, but the enjoyment of doing it just skyrockets. And you know you're doing something right when you're just fully tapped into the emotional side of it, and it's allowing you to be the best version of yourself.
Beautiful. I'm going to pivot to you, Gabe, because I know that this is right along, everything that you and I have talked about. And building a brand at 23 is one thing, and that's what you've done. But building a brand most people believe in, that's special. And because there's a lot of people that are currently believing and supporting your brand. Many entrepreneurs talk about hustle, right? The quote unquote hustle. You talk about vibration. You talk about signs. You talk about alignment. So I want to dig into what separated you. So in your venture with Praise and Verified, what's one moment you looked back at and said, that wasn't luck, that was a frequency shift, a sign from something higher? And how did your faith lead you to lean into that moment?
For sure, yeah. I mean, thanks for having me on. So the first time I went to go film content in Times Square, I went out with a friend. I wrote on a sign, "Did you pray today?" And then I said, "Let's pray together." I held up the sign there for about 30 minutes and nobody stopped. I kept asking people. They said, no, thank you. And I looked at my sister. She was recording me and I was like, should we just go home? Like, maybe this is not what we're supposed to do. Then a guy came up to me, a younger kid, and he's like, I love what you're doing. Like, let's say a quick prayer. And we said a prayer together in the middle of Times Square. And he said, thanks for what you're doing. Keep it up. And at that moment, I knew like there's a deeper purpose for this. And God was showing me that it's powerful, that I can inspire people, pray with them, talk about faith. And there's one quote that sticks with me since then is, God is never late. He's always on time.
Oof.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's some heavy stuff, Gabe. Yeah. That insight is gold because most people wait for permission. You recognize the pulse, right?
For sure.
And you went right where you had to go when you felt it. And that's where the true differentiator lies.
For sure.
Now let's chat about the hidden struggle and that reveal moment, Kevin. So success is glamorous on social media, right? But behind the scenes, the story is always more interesting. It's the collapse, the doubt, the moment you're alone with yourself that often births your breakthrough. Can you share a moment, maybe off camera, unseen, when your career felt like it was slipping away? Injury, defeat, identity shift. How did you lean into faith when you couldn't rely solely on your talent? And what changed after that?
Yeah, I feel like the moment for me was when I dislocated my shoulder playing baseball, actually, because for all my life I thought injuries just weren't a thing because I've been fortunate enough to never really experience it till that moment, and it slowed me down as a ball player because it was like, wow, I'm not invincible in that degree. Like there's hurdles sometimes in life. So for me, it was understanding that, like, all right, now that I'm hurt, what's something I could do, right? So allowing the healing process of my body to get back to shape, but not letting my motivation get destroyed because of this hurdle. So like tapping back into faith, it was allowing me to just understand what I need to do right in life to not only improve my recovery, but improve my mindset. And, like getting hurt, like going back to frequency, it's a low vibrational thing to experience, but as in life, you gotta have ebbs and flows, and you gotta understand how to elevate yourself in situations that you're in. And at that moment, it was just more about, all right, this is temporary. Success is still on the other side of the hill. I need to climb this hill, be the best person I can potentially be, really follow God's step of allowing myself to reach that potential. And with time, like we all know, like sometimes setbacks they're usually temporary. So you got to remember that and allow your faith to really amplify yourself to get to the next level. So that's why I feel like that's the best way to overcome moments like that.
Yeah, setbacks are blessings in disguise. That's a fact. So thank you for sharing that vulnerability, because those are stories that actually move us, because they remind us that alignment isn't only for the top, it's for the comeback.
Yes,
right?
yes. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, basically.
100%. So Gabe, you're already giving today's entrepreneurs permission to believe differently just by what you've accomplished at 23 and your drive. But I want to bring it down into the practical. Faith is feeling, but also action. So in your experience, what's one specific mindset shift or faith-driven action you took that turned into a business advantage, something you tell young athletes or entrepreneurs they can do tomorrow?
For sure, yeah. Well, one mindset shift that I made was that prayer is not something you have to do, it's something you get to do, right? It's a privilege. So I try to start every morning when I wake up. First thing I do is I talk to God. I thank him for blessing me with another day, because every day is a blessing, and not every day is given. So I try to start my day with God, and then throughout the day, check in every once in a while, whether something's happening, I need to talk to God, I need advice. I try to check in a couple of times and just talk out loud. Sometimes it looks a little crazy that I'm talking to nobody, but really I'm talking to God. And that's one thing I would tell young athletes, entrepreneurs, really everything. If you're going to try one thing tomorrow, try to wake up tomorrow morning and thank God and try to talk to him throughout the day, because if you talk to God throughout the day and you realize that God is with you, you'll realize that you're really never alone, and there's always someone there with you.
That's actionable, and that's exactly what the audience wants, because belief becomes real when we see how to use it. Now let's chat career vision and alignment forward for you, Kevin. So you've already transformed your identity from athlete to designer. That was no easy feat, stepping out of one box into another, right? That kind of evolution happens only when you stay connected to your why, your source that you've been saying. Yes. So let's talk about the next chapter. So as you look ahead, we're going into 2026, at what you want to build next in sport, in design, in impact. How are you ensuring you stay connected to that higher frequency that you've tapped into?
Yeah, for me, staying connected with that higher frequency is just allowing going back to what we were saying, the North Star guide you the right place, right? And the only way to get to these levels, to the next frequency, is to take the proper steps, not just spiritually, but also in real life, just being an amazing human being, doing all the little steps that make you not only just mentally healthier, but also physically healthier. And you got to just keep doing that to keep yourself aligned, because as a designer now, I want to create something bigger than sports, right? Like I want to be able to have the licenses for NBA, MLB, and other sports leagues, but I also want to create a creative world, kind of how Ralph Lauren, he's not just clothing anymore. He has home decor. He does a lot of everything. So I want to be in that level where my brand is sustainable and long lasting as much as possible. But I only could get to that if I'm on the proper frequency to get me to those levels. So that's where I'm at, just being the best human being I could be every single day, tapping in with God and taking the steps forward to create that reality.
Everything worth it is built for tomorrow, right?
Yes.
And when you stay aligned, when you stay tuned to your frequency, that next chapter becomes the strongest one.
Yes, absolutely. And you always have to keep that in mind, because also another thing I want to mention is that like this is all energy, right? Like you can, like the universe, God could give you the idea in your head, but if you don't put it into action, he's going to give it to somebody else. So it's always good to act upon moments like that, because if not, someone else could beat you to it, or that blessing's going to go elsewhere. So always act upon intuition. It's so important.
Follow your gut.
Yes.
For sure.
Gabe, we started this conversation talking about identity and belief, move through strategy and setback. Now I want us to land on legacy. What you're building isn't just for you, it's for everyone listening. So when you think about your legacy for your brand, your faith, your community, what do you want the younger generation, young athletes, creators, and entrepreneurs listening right now to take away about connection and alignment and purpose? I mean, what message do you hope echoes in their lives?
That's a great question. So I'm Jewish. My family's from Israel, but my message is for everyone. I want to make faith cool again. I want to make believing in God cool again. I want people to be proud of their faith, no matter what religion you are, no matter where you're from. I want people to be proud of that, to talk about it, to realize God is with you. When things get tough, when push comes to shove, God is always with you. And you know, there's one quote from the Torah that I always like to quote. It's God is with you wherever you go. And if you remember that one line, I promise your whole life will change.
That's beautifully said. And that is the heart of this segment, because belief that becomes action, alignment that becomes impact is truly what we're talking about. So thank you for giving our audience that clarity. We are at the end of our date, my friends. Thank you so much for coming on and inspiring us. I truly loved having this conversation, a little bit different from the Expert on the Microphone series I'm used to, but these conversations are so needed. I think the generation, whether it's Gen Alpha or Gen Z, I think for sure Gen Z and millennials are definitely turning to God these days for support and really for guidance. And I think that the faith-based movement has taken a new shift, and I think it's only going to continue to intensify. And I think that the entire world is really at the forefront of a next chapter. I think there's an awakening happening. I could feel it. I could feel it with people I meet. We're vibrating on much different frequencies and much different levels than we were even 10 years ago. The pandemic had a lot to do with it. Our political climate has a lot to do with it. Different religious groups have a lot to do with it. But I think that at the heart of it all, it's young individuals like yourselves showing up with a full plate of faith. And that's the most important part. So thank you.
For sure. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you to Once Upon a Coconut for reminding us that what we put into our body matters as much as what we put into our mind and spirit. Keep shining, keep believing, keep aligning your heart with your hustle. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. Stay tuned. More inspiration ahead. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut.
Discover the refreshing taste of 100% pure coconut water that actually tastes great. Naturally sweet with no artificial flavors or added sugar. It's packed with electrolytes to keep you hydrated throughout your day. And with 10% of profits going to charity, every sip makes a difference. Pure taste, pure goodness. Experience nature's Gatorade. Visit Once Upon a Coconut or naturesgatorade.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sands. Debuting right now is our brand new segment, Sculpting the Future, brought to you by Tigter Aesthetics, a global leader in regenerative medicine. Today, we're exploring a breakthrough that is transforming both aesthetics and women's health. Our headliner, well, it says it all. Add volume, restore confidence. The breakthrough fat allograft filler transforming breasts, bodies, and aesthetics. Now let's ground today's conversation in actual numbers. There's over 1.1 million US women currently living with breast implants. 35,000 explant surgeries are performed every year, many linked to pain, inflammation, and breast implant illness, what we call BII. There's more than 100,000 women that are receiving mastectomies annually, and since 2019, aesthetic flat closures have risen nearly 30% as more women choose to avoid implants entirely. Now, these are women who deserve options, natural options, safe options, options that don't introduce foreign materials into the body. Tigter Aesthetics is answering that very call. Their platform advances regenerative medicine with scientific precision, innovation, and profound respect for the gift of tissue donation. Their aesthetics division delivers precision-engineered technologies spanning facial rejuvenation, breast aesthetics, and body contouring, all rooted in advanced biomaterials and real clinical outcomes. And I can speak to this firsthand. In September, I personally underwent an alloClae treatment and gained a full cup size naturally. No implants, no general anesthesia, no synthetic material. And the feel is organic and structurally supportive in a way women have been longing for. And the women who stand to benefit the most include explant patients, BII survivors, double mastectomy with aesthetic flat closures, autoimmune sensitive women, and anyone really seeking natural volume without surgery. Leading the charge at Tigter Aesthetics is a woman whose expertise is shaping the future of regenerative medicine. Caroline Van Hove is the president of Tigter Aesthetics and a globally respected leader with more than 2 decades across aesthetics, pharmaceuticals, and medical devices. She's held senior roles at Allergan, Scientra, and Sienna Biopharmaceuticals, served as CEO at Revell, and now leads one of the most innovative portfolios in regenerative aesthetics. She also serves on the board of Mission Plásticos, providing reconstructive care to underserved patients worldwide. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So excited to have this conversation with you. So I'm going to dive right in. Caro, Tigter Aesthetics is advancing regenerative medicine with innovation, integrity, and that deep respect for the donor families who make this possible. And with tissue-based therapies helping over 1.5 million patients every year, your mission is rooted in both science and humanity, basically. So for listeners discovering Tigter for the first time, how do you describe the company's core mission, and how does tissue donation shape the impact you're making in regenerative aesthetics?
Yeah. Well, the mission for Tigter Biosciences is pretty simple, which is human health physically, mentally. So more specifically, Tigter Biosciences, at the core, it's a group and an expert of tissue engineers. And our whole focus is advancing regenerative medicine, like you said. And the way we do that is through groundbreaking science, proprietary processing methods, while truly honoring that gift of tissue donation to save thousands of lives. So what we have in our portfolio essentially is a product group that are proprietary, non-viable, acellular, human tissue-based products that support repair, reconstruction, replacement, and also supplementation of essentially what we call recipient cell and tissue. So we lead with very cool tissue engineered products that respect the FDA regulation around it, which means that we want to preserve the intrinsic nature of the tissue that we process. So all that just to say, regenerative aesthetics and regenerative medicine, it's our passion. Our technology platforms are really designed to support the body's ability to heal itself. And so we have created 2 pillars in our business. One is a wound care business, which are essentially placental tissue or birth tissue allografts that essentially are for hospital-based wounds that are life-threatening. And then we have an aesthetic division where, again, we're introducing this new class of products that we call structural adipose tissue, so fat-based tissue products that are all designed to support breast reconstruction, breast augmentation, and body contouring in general.
Wow. I mean, that purpose-driven foundation is so powerful. The statement you just gave me, I mean, it gives women confidence that this isn't just aesthetics, it's healing, it's ethics and innovation really working together. What you have is so proprietary.
Yes, it is.
And one thing that truly differentiates Tigter, to my understanding, is your vertical integration, because few companies oversee every step from donor screening to tissue collection, R&D, manufacturing, and distribution. So this is truly a beautiful roadmap. How does Tigter's fully integrated model elevate safety and quality control and more importantly, the trusted clinicians and patients? I mean, how can all of this come together in your technology?
Yeah. So when our owners got together, so Tigter Biosciences is a privately owned company. 2 individuals that essentially came together over 2 decades ago and essentially decided to specialize in the processing of placental tissue. And so over the course of that partnership, they became experts in true tissue engineering, tissue processing, And so several years ago, they looked at the spectrum of tissue and they said, what other tissue is out there that we can learn to process in a similar way to essentially do a lot of good? But they also had essentially mastered this formula for success where truly they created a business model that was vertically integrated, meaning that the operations that they own, that they oversee, encompasses anything from tissue recovery to tissue processing, all the way to compliant distribution of those technologies. So essentially that formula they replicated then to create an aesthetics division. So that means that we essentially source the tissue from essentially tissue banks that are heavily regulated here in the United States. We own the manufacturing, we own the processing of the tissue, we own the commercialization and the distribution of the tissue. So all of those elements in this sort of, processing and commercial cycle are owned by Tigter Biosciences. And what does that do for us? That means that essentially we can really vouch for the quality of the tissue. We can vouch for the processing of the tissue. We can vouch for the safety and the efficacy of obviously the products that we make available to patients.
And that's why the trust that clinicians and patients place in your technology, that is the reason. It makes so much sense. When every step is controlled with precision, the outcomes feel consistent, predictable, and incredibly natural. And that's essentially what you're doing.
Yeah. And also, I think very importantly, right, if you want to really own and operate a business well, that means you have to have active oversight, and it has to be really within the presence in which you're operating. And so our tissue engineering, our tissue manufacturing is all happening here in the United States, in San Antonio, Texas, where we have our leadership stations to really kind of oversee everything end to end. So that I think is also very important. We also collaborate and we partner with tissue banks that are US based. So again, to make sure that we really have great oversight and great insight into how things are happening.
That makes me feel so much better. Now, let's talk about alloClae, because this is the innovation everyone is buzzing about. Immediate volume, natural structure, long-lasting results, no general anesthesia, no implant, and no need to harvest a patient's own fat. These are key. So for those hearing about it for the very first time, what exactly is alloClae and what makes it such a breakthrough in natural volume restoration and body contouring?
Yeah. So alloClae is truly a disruption to the medical aesthetics market, right? In the last sort of several years, body contouring and the need to essentially rejuvenate and restore below the neck has become a very sort of high demand area amongst women and men. And so I think the uniqueness of alloClae here is that really this is not a synthetic filler. This is not an implant. This is not some prosthesis of some kind. Truly what we have done is take essentially adipose tissue fat, and we have learned to process it in a way where we retain the very best of that fat. So it is a structural fat allograft that is made from minimally processed, purified adipose tissue or fats. And essentially what it allows you to do is really contour, sculpt the body, give a targeted reinjection of fat where you may have lost it, whether it is the breast, whether it is the booty area, and so on, in a way that is non-surgical, doesn't require general anesthesia, and essentially is with very little downtime.
That's exactly right. And I'm a living proof of that, because what struck me personally is how the material behaves like me.
Yeah.
Like there's no foreign body feel. It integrates seamlessly. And those are extremely important things to consider as a woman when you're putting anything into your body. So I'm going to go one step further. You mentioned a little bit on the use cases, but let's talk about where alloClae can be used. So structural volume loss happens everywhere, like you said, breast, hips, glutes, post-lipo irregularities. Now everyone is coming off of on GLP-1s, right? alloClae is giving women and men that targeted natural option. So where in the body can alloClae be used specifically, and which patients or aesthetic goals, if you will, is it best suited for?
Yeah. So essentially, alloClae is appropriate for homologous use. And what that means is it can be administered anywhere in the body where fat exists. So the most suited patient for alloClae is someone who is really looking for a targeted kind of volume enhancement. And so think about the breast area. So perhaps you have been on a medical weight loss drug and you have some deflated sort of fatty tissue in the breast area. It's an opportunity to add some volume back in. Some women with implants have some rippling, wrinkling over time, or perhaps some separation of the implants that, again, when you are able to kind of add some additional sort of fat back to it, it sort of corrects that look. Also a great use of alloClae. Then if we look at the lower extremities, so below the waist, so women oftentimes have sort of these divots, if you will, that happen in sort of the lateral hip sort of arena. We call them hip dips. So again, that is an opportunity to kind of re-inject some of that fat to contour it out. Again, when you've been on a GLP-1 or other medical weight loss drugs, you might have essentially desired weight loss, but maybe a deflated booty. Again, another opportunity for alloClae. Other areas that we see some great work in is, for example, some women who've had liposuction. Liposuction is a difficult procedure, and sometimes post-liposuction, you can have this unevenness of the skin. So alloClae is a great opportunity in that sort of fatty layer. So many opportunities, lots of versatile use, but think anywhere in the body where fat already exists, it's an opportunity to cushion and to structure that a little bit more.
Now let's talk about what alloClae is made from. You touched on it a little bit, but patients today want transparency, especially BII survivors, flat closure patients, and autoimmune sensitive women. Those are three pillars of categories that are hypersensitive. So can you break down what alloClae is made of and explain how this structural adipose matrix functions once it's placed in the body?
Yeah. So alloClae is truly coming from donated tissues. So these are sort of obviously individuals that have deceased and that prior to have consented to essentially donate their tissue for a variety of medical purposes, such as what we use alloClae for. And so it is donated tissue. We take essentially the tissue from the abdominal area because that is very kind of powerful tissue or adipose tissue that has all the components that we want, which is that adipose structure, the membrane, and then obviously strong connective tissue. So donated tissue comes from the abdominal area. And then we process it in a very rigorous manner so that it is obviously safe and effective for use, for homologous use.
And what I love, Caro, and what women need to hear is that this isn't just passive volume, because the matrix preserves the extracellular structure. It acts like a scaffold that encourages the body's own fat cells to migrate, stabilize, and really integrate. And there are clinical papers showing adipose matrices can support neo-adipogenesis, meaning that the body actually begins to deposit and maintain its own fat in that area. So you're not just getting volume, you're getting a foundation, in my opinion, that helps your body preserve it naturally. And that's extremely important.
That's right. So I think that's also key, right? So we talk about alloClae, obviously a very innovative product, but it is an allograft, and allografts are commonly used. And all of those allografts that we talk about, whether they're wound care or reconstruction, they have common traits. And when we talk about allograft, it means that essentially they have structural integrity, right? They have low immunogenicity, which means that they are not going to trigger foreign body responses. They have a retention of the native proteins, right, of the donated tissue, and they're biocompatible. Those are essentially the key characteristics of allografts, and alloClae is just another allograft, if you will, but this is one that is very suited for aesthetic and reconstructive use.
And of course, stripped of the DNA, which is another.
Exactly. So when I say low immunogenicity, what you have done is you have decellularized that tissue, meaning that you have stripped it of the donor's sort of genetic material, of the DNA, of the nuclei, so that when I essentially receive that donated tissue, that I will not have a foreign body response. So
there you go. So important.
I think it's also very important, right? When you are talking about products that come from donated tissue, it's obviously very important to the recipient, to the patient, to understand what are all the things about the donor. And so in this case, it's very important to understand that for any donated tissue, we go back 5 years and we really evaluate essentially the medical records of that donor for 5 years, looking at a plethora of different things to make sure that essentially there were no transmittable diseases or other factors that could become a problem as we are processing the tissue. And on average, it takes about 3 months or longer for us to screen one particular donor, meaning looking back at all those medical records for 5 years. And what we ask for is very stringent, it's very regulated to make sure that truly the tissue that we extract from that particular donor is very safe.
And with that, we are at the end of our date, my friend. I appreciate you coming on. I learned so much today, and I know our listeners and viewers did too. But you are a scientist. I love speaking with you, and you are such a powerful woman that women are leading the way. And I truly I feel so comfortable knowing that you're at the head of this company because you choose your leaders properly, and you're there for a reason.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words, but I think that it's such an exciting time for all of us women, right? Especially us as women, we're also end users in many of these cases. And so I truly think that we've done lots of great work in the field of medical aesthetics, but to your point, women want the body to do its own best work. And so this desire, this real need to have more natural materials that are going to be more harmonious with how our body responds is just essential. And so to be able to introduce a class, and we certainly won't be the last ones, but that's really what we need to drive towards, away from synthetic materials towards better products that less issues, and just essentially produce better clinical results. So I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. And you just said it. We're not going to be the last ones, but you know what? We are the first, and we're going to be imitated, but never duplicated.
There we go. I love that. I might steal that one from you.
It's all yours. Well, Cara, thank you for this powerful conversation
Thank
and for leading the next era of regenerative aesthetics. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much for having me.
If you're listening and curious about natural breast shaping, gluteal enhancement, or body contouring without implants, without synthetic materials, and without major surgery, you definitely want to head to Tigter-Aesthetics.com. That's Tigter-Aesthetics.com. Or you can check them out directly on the gram at Tigter Aesthetics Medical and at alloClae. That was Sculpting the Future, brought to you by Tigter Aesthetics. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Tortora Promotions, specializing in white glove digital marketing, social media management, professional videography, and PR services. Based in New York City and partnering with hundreds of businesses nationwide, they deliver proven strategies that bring more customers through the door. If your old marketing methods aren't keeping up, Tortora Promotions can step in to help you stay ahead. Grow your brand and drive real results. Reach out today and follow them on Instagram at Tortora Promotions. Your business deserves it.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to the Better, Brighter You segment, brought to you by Cyspera, the leader in science-backed pigment correction. Today, we're diving into a topic affecting millions worldwide, hyperpigmentation, one of the most stubborn and emotionally taxing skin concerns. Studies show that nearly 40% of women of all skin tones struggle with some form of pigment disorder. And as we know, pigmentation is multifactorial, hormonal, inflammatory, environmental, which is why solutions must be both science-based and strategic. And no one understands that better than today's guest. Dr. David Goldberg is a board-certified dermatologist, international lecturer, researcher, and a true pioneer in energy-based aesthetics. Since 1985, he has treated patients across the world while training thousands of physicians in cutting-edge laser and cosmetic technologies. In 2020, he merged with Schweiger Dermatology Group, now the fourth largest dermatology group in the United States, where he serves as the director of cosmetic dermatology and clinical research. And if that weren't impressive enough, he's also an attorney, a Fordham Law graduate right here from the heart of New York City, bringing a rare legal lens to the future of aesthetic medicine. Welcome to the show, superstar.
It's great to be here.
So before we get into the treatment landscape, I want to start with the science because people often underestimate how complex pigmentation really is. And we know from published dermatology research that melasma is driven by hormones and UV exposure and inflammation and vascular changes and even genetics, which is why recurrence rates can be as high as 50 to 80%. Not without proper management, right? So the complexity directly impacts patients' expectations and timelines. So, but from your vantage point, which is a very, very unique and astute one as a researcher and clinician, what does the latest science tell us about why hyperpigmentations and conditions like melasma are so complex? And how should patients think about realistic timelines for improvement?
So hyperpigmentation is basically an umbrella that covers all sources of excess pigment in the skin. It could be age spots, it could be falling off a bike and scraping your knee and the pigment is there. But as you alluded to, melasma is the most complicated version of it, and it does affect so many people, and mostly women. And so it's complicated because, one, it is hormonally based, and it's hard to really change that. You see it in women on birth control pills. You see it on women who are around menopause. It's always worsened by sun exposure. There's a genetic tendency. So a lot of different factors. And if you don't treat it correctly and conservatively, and you don't treat it over the long term, you can potentially make things worse. And our goal is always to make things better and not worse.
Now, one of the biggest shifts we've seen recently is the move toward hydroquinone-free pigment solutions, driven by both safety considerations and the need for long-term maintenance, right? Something sustainable. And Cyspera has emerged as one of those standout products with cysteamine as its star ingredient, which really offers results without the limitation of those traditional bleaching agents. And of course, you know this better than anyone else, but the recent clinical studies show meaningful improvement in stubborn pigmentation with consistent use overall and over several weeks, of course. And it's another one of those companies that we say clinically researched, clinically verified. So where does Cyspera fit within a comprehensive pigmentation protocol, whether as a standalone formulation or as a complement to in-office procedure? Break it down for me.
As you alluded to, hydroquinones are bleaching agents. They've been around for almost 40 years already, but they have their own issues. There are some concerns about them. They tend not to want to be used in Europe. Often they're combined with topical cortisones. Those can thin the skin. They're combined with topical retin-A-like products, which can irritate the skin. And the last thing you want to do with melasma is irritate the skin. So on comes cysteamine. That's what Cyspera is all about. And in fact, it's not only just cysteamine that's in Cyspera, it's also isobionic amide. They are both agents that can lessen pigmentation without using hydroquinones, without using retin-A, without using steroids. And sometimes we combine with laser technology, and we can talk about that a little bit, and sometimes we use them alone. But in both situations, Cyspera, with those two products, is safe in patients with melasma. It can help to lessen pigment.
Wow, beautifully said, like an astute professor would deliver. And I love that you emphasize synergy rather than replacement, because it really reinforces that true lasting results come from a balanced approach, right? Because those two ingredients are key right there. Now, the treatments like chemical peels and lasers and energy devices can deliver, without a doubt, tremendous results, but they're also only as safe as the provider holding the device, right? And in today's landscape where aesthetics is booming and technology is widely available, provider experience is everything. And a recent JAMA report even cited a rise in complications linked to non-physician supervised treatments. So prevention starts way before the laser is turned on. Now, with today's aesthetic technologies, Dr. Goldberg, being more advanced and accessible than ever, when should patients look for when selecting an experienced physician? So what should be the time of the year? Like, I think devices are considered, better used, not in the summer, if you will, but time of year. And what should patients be looking for when selecting an experienced physician? And more importantly, is there a practical checklist that they should ask before committing to like an in-office pigmentation procedure?
Yeah, well, the first point is, as you alluded to it, this issue about the time of year. So any device where you're concerned about using it a certain time of year is not the device to be used for melasma. And so typically deeper peels, the lasers often used for wrinkles, carbon dioxide lasers, erbium lasers, these are just terrible for melasma. They can make melasma look better maybe for a month or two, and then there's a rebound effect and they're worse. So the way we approach melasma from a laser perspective is to use a laser that lessens pigment but doesn't create any wound. You cannot have inflammation. You cannot have a wound or you make things worse. So we tend to use lasers, they're known as YAG lasers, which don't produce any wound at all. And then we often combine that with what's known as a red low level light source or an LED source, which suppresses inflammation. The goal of melasma is to lessen the pigment and stop inflammation. And when you do those together and you combine them with Cyspera, oh my God, the results are terrific. And frankly, it can be done any time of year. The problem you run into, as you alluded to, is when it's not physician supervised, and that doesn't mean there aren't PAs and NPs that aren't great at this. There are many that are. I run a meeting that trains them. But when you have a situation where these people are not supervised, and often they're using what are known as IPLs, intense pulse lights. They're the cheapest light-based device. Many spas have them. Those devices notoriously burn patients with melasma. They create more hyperpigmentation, and the legal side of me is I see those complications all the time. So a YAG laser plus low-level light combined with Cyspera, you're not going to run into problems, and you're going to make melasma better.
Boom. There you go. That's an empowering checklist, empowering guidance right there. And when you break it down like that, it can truly save patients from irreversible complications.
No doubt. A lot of
Yeah.
happiness is prevented.
There you go. And of course, even with the best precautions, complications can occasionally occur, right? So post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, like you said earlier, PIH is particularly common in darker skin tones where melanocytes are more reactive to heat or trauma. So what matters most is how quickly and responsibly it's managed, right? But when complications like PIH do arise, what are the most effective and responsible next steps a physician should take to manage and treat those issues?
So you allude to PIH, that's post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. And of course, ideally that shouldn't occur, but you're right, it can occur no matter who does something. That's where Cyspera is terrific. If you're concerned about that kind of problem, that PIH, that hyperpigmentation, oh my gosh, put someone on Cyspera immediately and it'll lessen that from happening. The other part is with melasma also is, in addition to Cyspera, is melasma is always worsened by sun exposure. And so you can do all you want and make people better with Cyspera and with any lasers. And then if they sit out and, they're in Florida, they're on the West Coast, on the beaches in California, they're on the Jersey Shore. If they sit out there in the summer and they don't wear their sunscreens, boom, it's all coming right back. And so sunscreens and Cyspera are the long-term maintenance. Lasers are the way to get them better quicker.
There you go. It's of course, again, incredibly reassuring. And patients need to know that complications are not a dead end. And with the right physician, they're a manageable part of the journey, without a doubt. Now, melasma behaves more like a chronic condition, we said this earlier, than a temporary one. And triggers, like we've been talking about, like heat, light, stress, and hormones can reactivate pigment at any time. And dermatology literature even shows that melasma recurrence is virtually guaranteed without ongoing maintenance. So the real win is long-term stability, not chasing perfection. How do you recommend patients balance in-office treatment with consistent at-home care? And what does the ideal long-term maintenance plan look like to keep pigment under control without overtreating the skin?
So when we treat people with melasma, typically our course is 5 treatments once a month with this YAG laser and low-level light source once a month. Treatments, they're nearly painless. These lasers do not hurt at all. Treatments take maybe 20, 25 minutes once a month for 5 months. They start on Cyspera immediately. After the 5-month treatments, they're better. They stay on the Cyspera, and generally they come in about once every 6 months for a single treatment. Just a single treatment, but they stay on the Cyspera as long as they have issues, which they can. It's not a hydroquinone, it's not a steroid, and they have to use sunscreens. If they do all that, sometimes I get to see them once a year. I had a patient just yesterday who I've been seeing for 20 years already. She comes in once a year, and we looked at her pictures from 20 years ago. She looked terrible, and she looks great now. She's doing the right thing. She uses Cyspera, she uses sunscreens. I see her once a year.
Perfectly said. Realistic, sustainable, and patient-centered. It's exactly what people need to hear. So thank you for that. Now, before we wrap up, I want to tap into something uniquely you. You're not only a medical pioneer, you're also an attorney. And right now, we're watching a massive boom in med spas, franchise aesthetics, and non-physician providers entering the field. Patients are confused, Dr. Goldberg, and practitioners are overwhelmed, and the legal landscape is evolving faster than regulations can keep up. So how is the legal landscape evolving for aesthetic medicine, and how do you advise both your peers and patients to navigate this rapidly changing field safely?
So, and you're right, with the proliferation of all kinds of aesthetic centers, it's not just med spas. Some of the med spas are great, but all kinds of aesthetic centers. The laws as to who can run these things, who can treat these things varies from state to state, and you have national coverage. There is no question that the 2 most common lawsuits we're seeing are either this IPL treatment, intense pulse light treatment of melasma, or when it's used for hair removal, same issue, on darker skinned people. It just has a tendency to burn them. The lawsuits are going through the roof, and partly because the people in these places are not trained correctly, partly because the centers don't have the right devices, and partly because the public doesn't realize that just because it is a light source, that it's safe to treat melasma. And so there's no end in sight with this. These places grow and until the next recession, and then they fall apart, then they come back, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's room for everybody in this arena, but patients need to ask the right questions.
Yeah, it's fascinating what, and deeply needed, because that dual expertise that you have brings so much clarity to an area filled with noise and misinformation. So I love that, you have it all centered on a clinical and a research side, but the legal side, you're at the forefront of every curve and every.
As you alluded to, I mean, Schweiger Dermatology actually is now bigger than you even mentioned. Last time we spoke, there were about 70 offices. They're now about 170 coast to coast now. And part of my training the providers is not just to train them in what to use, but how to do it safely. And if you do things the right way and you do it safely, there's never going to be zero risk in anything in life. We cross the street, but you make that risk as low as you can.
Well, there you go. Dr. Goldberg, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today. And truly, you're my expert on the microphone. You're my go-to. I text you every time I need you.
Happy holidays.
And for everyone listening, you can learn more about his work and schedule a consultation by visiting schweigerderm.com. And you can follow him directly on the gram at Dr. David Goldberg. And of course, today's Better, Brighter You segment is brought to you by Cyspera, the science-backed system trusted worldwide for pigment correction. To explore their full formulation and educational resources, you can go directly on their website at Cyspera.com. That's Cyspera. And you can follow them on the gram at Cyspera. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio, and beyond. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Cyspera. If skin discoloration is making it hard to find your Zen, Cyspera can help. Stubborn pigmentation, dark spots, and uneven skin tone concerns go beyond the surface, affecting both confidence and self-expression. In a sea of skincare choices, Cyspera stands apart. Backed by science and trusted by dermatologists worldwide, Cyspera is powered by the advanced cysteamine isobonic amide complex, delivering clinically proven results and effectively targeting mild to persistent discoloration while restoring the skin's natural glow. Unlike harsh treatments, Cyspera is formulated for all skin types, including sensitive areas, ensuring visible improvements without irritation. Whether pigmentation is a new concern or a long-standing struggle, Cyspera works in harmony with the skin to bring balance, clarity, and renewed confidence. Cyspera is science-driven skincare for confidence that shines. Find your skin zen and restore your glow with Cyspera today by heading to Cyspera.com. A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
The Kelly Williams Show is brought to you by Serendipity Yacht Cruises and Events. Tune in and turn on your happy. Kelly Williams is full of energy and incredible guests. Watch her anytime, free programming on Your Home TV network, and do follow her on social media for a chance to win monthly prizes. Check out The Kelly Williams Show on yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Xen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Today's We Play It Forward Foundation segment goes to the heart of why this platform exists, to amplify voices and missions that can literally save lives. We're talking about childhood dementia, medically known as Sanfilippo syndrome, often referred to as childhood Alzheimer's. Here's what listeners need to know. Sanfilippo affects an estimated 1 in 70,000 births. It's a progressive neurodegenerative disorder caused by a missing enzyme that prevents the brain from breaking down certain sugars. Now, this buildup leads to severe brain damage, regression, loss of speech, loss of mobility, and ultimately a fatal outcome. Most children don't survive into their teen years. There is no cure. There is no FDA-approved treatment just yet. But here's the part that matters today, right now. Childhood dementia is fatal, but hope is very real. And that hope exists because of parents who refuse to accept there's nothing we can do. Two of those extraordinary parents and global leaders in this space are here with us right now. Glenn O'Neill, father of Eliza and president of the Cure Sanfilippo Foundation, and Dr. Cara O'Neill. She's a pediatrician, chief science officer, and fierce advocate for families affected by childhood dementia. In 2013, their daughter Eliza was diagnosed at age 3. Instead of collapsing, they mobilized. And since then, the Cure Sanfilippo Foundation has helped fund over 60 research projects around the world, 3 clinical trials, treatment access for more than 70 children. Now, this conversation follows one roadmap: the truth, the hope, and the way forward. Glenn O'Neill is co-founder and president of Cure Sanfilippo, as I mentioned earlier. He's a father turned global advocate who has reshaped the research landscape for childhood dementia through urgency, community mobilization, and unwavering determination. As for Cara, well, pediatrician and chief science officer, her title says it all. A physician whose rare disease leadership is rooted in both medical expertise and lived experience. She collaborates with world-leading researchers, federal agencies, and clinical teams to accelerate treatment pathways for Sanfilippo syndrome. Let's begin, because when it comes to childhood dementia, every single day matters. Welcome to the show, superstars.
Thank you. We're thrilled to be here. Thank you.
All right, Glenn, the diagnosis, I'm going to start with you. The diagnosis moment is something families never forget, right? With Sanfilippo, it often comes after years of searching for answers, and then suddenly life divides into before and after. So take us back to the day you learned Eliza had Sanfilippo. What did that moment sound like, and how did you begin processing the reality of a fatal childhood dementia?
Right. Yeah, the moment we received the diagnosis about a little over 12 years ago now was the worst moment of our lives. I heard the words terminal, I heard degenerative, I heard life-limiting in the teen years. It was just the worst. And we went outside after the appointment, and stood by our minivan and cried. My wife and myself just cried. Eliza was in the back seat of our minivan watching Dora the Explorer, completely unaware of the sentence and the results that we'd just been given. So it was a very emotional, very, very hard time. Hard to talk about still, but we know we have to talk about it to spread this awareness. We actually called off work right away. It was a Thursday, and we said we're going to go to the beach and take a trip to the beach. So that was Eliza's favorite place to go, to run in the water and be in the sand. And we did that, and it was almost as if we were going away, and we didn't really talk about it much that weekend, to have one more somewhat typical weekend before having to face the reality. And Eliza used to run down the beach. She was in a very hyperactive stage of the disease, so she would run down the beach and just keep going, and she wouldn't turn around and come back. And she must have been a half a mile away, and I caught up to her and was holding her hand, and I knew we had to come back. I knew we had to turn around. I didn't want to, because I knew turning around meant facing the reality of the diagnosis we've been given. But we did. And when we got back, my wife and I talked it over, and we immediately said and agreed together, we're going to fight this in any way we can. And it was just a couple short months after that we decided to create Cure Sanfilippo Foundation.
Well, Glenn, I mean, your willingness to revisit that moment helps listeners understand not just the diagnosis, but the emotional magnitude families are hit with. So thank you for your vulnerability. It does not go unnoticed. Cara, the term childhood dementia shifts perception instantly, because we now understand Sanfilippo is a form of rapid early neurodegeneration, right? So from both a physician's perspective and a mother's perspective, can you explain what Sanfilippo childhood dementia actually does to a child's brain and body?
Yeah. And it's called this because, like you said, there is this progressive, relentless degeneration that happens. And in the case of Sanfilippo, it actually affects every cell in the body. But what we see is that some of the most severe effects really happen in those sensitive cells of the brain. And children appear healthy at birth, really, but because they are missing a key enzyme over time, toxic amounts of something called heparan sulfate build up in the cells, causing more and more damage. And heparan sulfate is interesting because actually it plays a key role in early childhood neurodevelopment and how brain cells communicate throughout the lifetime. So it's really an important kind of molecule to have in a proper balance. But, kind of in reality, what do doctors see? What do parents see happening in the kiddos? And they begin to have some developmental delays, usually in those early toddler years, preschool ages, particularly around milestones with speech and communication. That's one of the earliest signs developmentally. They'll reach their peak cognition kind of right before or around kindergarten age in learning physical abilities. And then you see this progressive, relentless loss of the skills that they've learned, even the ability to talk, walk, swallow. Commonly, we also see things like very intense behaviors, a diagnosis of autism, hearing loss, severe sleep problems that go along with Sanfilippo. And, as a mom, it feels like there couldn't be anything worse. And you imagine what their life's going to be like. And yet you see bit by bit pieces of your child being stolen away. And it is probably hard to express kind of how painstaking that is. But I can only imagine what our kids are facing. Like, it's bad for us, but the suffering that our kids undergo through this process is something that doesn't need to happen. We have scientific advances and we need to take action on them. And that's why finding treatments and advancing research is so important and urgent.
So important. And behind the science and statistics is the day-to-day reality families live inside: therapies, regressions, fatigue, and moments of profound resilience. So I think that it ties into the bigger picture. And so this brings me full circle to you, Glenn. I mean, behind the science and the statistics that we just talked about, let's go to that day-to-day emotional and physical reality of raising a child with a progressive condition. How do you find strength on the hardest days?
Yeah, it's not easy some days. After you get this diagnosis, you want to kind of, pull the covers over your head and hide in the closet and cry, and which there's a lot of that. But at the same time, you realize you have to pull yourself up and live and live again, and maybe in a different way. And certainly there's been physical and emotional challenges. The physical, as Eliza gets bigger, our daughter's 16 now. She requires a lot of help with day-to-day activities. So that has been more difficult as she's gotten bigger. But I think comparing the two, the emotional is by far the harder part of dealing with Sanfilippo from a parent perspective. Finding the strength to get through has really changed for me over the past 12 years. I think one of the struggles that I had was I would constantly, and it's kind of normal, think about the past and the things she used to be able to do when she could talk, when she could sing, and she no longer does those things, unfortunately. And I used to dwell on them probably a little too much, or then let your mind drift to the future where all the terrible things that could happen in the future with this disease progression. And I really kind of got away from that and realized I feel like I'm missing this beautiful, wonderful child that's right in front of me in the present moment. So it's provided me strength along the way to kind of change that type of thinking and to stay in the present moment. And as well as, honestly, knowing that there's so many supporters for this Cure Sanfilippo mission for these children around the world, I draw on strength for them also.
Thank you. And for saying that, because that explanation, along with Cara, what you just, framed the science of it all, is important because it gives families a framework for understanding both the science and the urgency of advancing research and really putting the funds to finding the cure. Now, Cara, despite the fatal prognosis, there is scientific progress. That's what I'm banking on. Real breakthroughs, real hope backed by measurable advancements. And they're there. They are there. So I almost don't like the fatal prognosis. That's not, although the research and the literature leads up to that kind of vocabulary, I would like to reframe it. And despite this fatal prognosis, you've helped fuel meaningful scientific progress. And that's what we're going to focus on. So what breakthroughs give you the most hope right now?
Yeah, thank you for that question and that framing, because I agree with you. Sometimes we hear it described as an incurable condition or an untreatable condition, and that's not true. That's absolutely not true. There's more hope in Sanfilippo research today than there ever has been. And we are in an exciting place and we continue to move forward. One breakthrough, and there are many, but one that gives a lot of optimism is progress in gene therapy and other approaches that target the root cause of the disease, really replacing the missing enzyme or allowing the body to make the missing enzyme. And there's a gene therapy and another enzyme replacement therapy that are in late stages of drug development, and that we're hoping the FDA will be reviewing over this next year, and hoping the FDA will really review these in an urgent manner and with a lot of flexibility given the devastating condition. And we're proud that Cure Sanfilippo donors actually were instrumental in helping to get that one of those gene therapies off the ground. And so we're proud to see how that's making an impact. The foundation is also funding some work by really amazing, brilliant scientists who are testing these new strategies around second generation gene therapies with enhanced brain delivery and better safety profiles, and an exciting new way to deliver gene therapy that actually is totally non-invasive and could be taken as a pill or liquid, which seems like science fiction at this point, but this work is being done right now, and it will be amazing. Another encouraging development is emergence of therapies that actually try to get at the quality of life right now, because children need help now, not just in the future. And we continue kind of along both paths, but drug repurposing offers one opportunity for using drugs that are approved right now for other diseases and seeing how they could translate maybe to help with symptoms in Sanfilippo. And we've collaborated with our wonderful partners at the Lundquist Institute to run a clinical trial testing an anti-inflammatory drug, and that's shown benefits. But even the work to develop novel clinical outcome measures and designs and understand the role of inflammation, all of those learnings are being translated across the field now. So, there's so many things, but those are just a few that give me real hope that we are closing in on some real effective strategies and treatments for our kids.
And rare disease research moves because communities move it. That's what we're talking about right now. And foundations like yours fill gaps that large institutions simply don't address. And community support is the engine behind rare disease research.
Yeah, everyday supporters and donors are crucial and critical to the work that's been going on for the past 12 years. As Cara mentioned, or I believe as you mentioned, helping fund more than 60 research grants around the world, help fund 3 clinical trials that have treated more than 70 children. 30 more children will be treated in a new drug repurposing clinical trial in 2026. And we also have a hopeful new expanded access treatment for kids with Sanfilippo type B that's coming in 2026. So somebody might think that a few dollars here or a few dollars there might not make a big difference, but our foundation is proof that added up together, it makes a massive change on our way to a hopeful FDA-approved treatments and one day a cure to stop Sanfilippo in its tracks. So we're very, very optimistic, very hopeful, and we want everyone out there to know that contributing to this means the world to these families, and it's making a massive difference.
That's powerful. And it reminds people that every single contribution, to your point, is truly catalytic, right?
Absolutely.
It's not just, hey,
Absolutely.
let's just give a couple of bucks here. It's really making a difference. So, Cara, let's talk about some new investigational therapies that I want to go back to what we were talking about, and then I also want you to educate our audience on creating awareness and genetic screening and testing between both partners. I mean, we know there are investigational therapies, like you mentioned, for certain types of Sanfilippo, and that, promising early data is great, but families are waiting on the long, complicated path of access and regulatory approval, whether it's 24, 48, 72 months from now. There are investigational therapies, like you mentioned, for Sanfilippo type A, and through the research that I did to prepare for this segment, they show early promise. But it's also, to my understanding, families are waiting on the long pathway towards approvals and access, like you mentioned. So from your vantage point as a chief science officer, what should families understand about where these potential treatments stand right now, and how close we may be to making them accessible to children who desperately need them? Like, what's that timeline look like?
Yeah. Yes, the regulatory pathway, the drug development pathway tends to be painfully slow and much slower than this disease moves. But what we're looking at right now is 10 years worth of just, essentially human trial, and another decade or more of work even preceding that, to the two therapies that are kind of furthest along for Sanfilippo A and B. And again, we anticipate that the FDA will be reviewing applications for approval in the first part of 2026. And, we continue to, offer our perspectives to the FDA, information about the disease, information about caregiver preferences, about what they're looking for in treatments, what risks they're willing to tolerate, to help the FDA understand, what we're all weighing and what these treatments mean and how meaningful they could be. So, yeah, we're crossing our fingers and hoping that those two first generation therapies will come through this year. But we have lots more work to do.
Now, Glenn, action is really the heart of what we're talking about, and listeners want to help. They want direction. They want impact. For thousands listening who want to help, what actions make the most immediate and meaningful impact for children fighting childhood dementia right now?
Yeah, so there's several ways that people can help and make immediate impact. First is supporting the research, as we kind of talked about. And, Sanfilippo research is severely underfunded. Every donation, large or small, helps move these promising therapies from the lab into clinical trials and into children, then for a hopeful treatment. The second, as we also talked about, is awareness. If you don't know about this at all, you don't even know what to fight. So simply sharing a child's story with Sanfilippo syndrome, hearing this segment and telling your neighbor about it, the visibility for these families that sometimes can feel isolated. Basically, we urgently need these stories to be shared. And third is, standing, if you know a family with Sanfilippo or with childhood dementia or with really any special needs, it's understanding and standing with them and understanding that they're carrying a severe emotional strain. And whether it's supporting through volunteering or just giving them a call and saying, how's things going? Again, it can be very isolating, this life, and to know that others are caring about you and checking in, that means the world. And, whether it's a whole community or one person that decides to act on this, it can make a big difference for a family when people show up. The last thing a family wants is when people don't talk and they get quiet and you don't hear from them any longer. That cuts deep.
Thank you for that. That's clear, actionable, and empowering. Exactly what people need when their hearts are activated, if you will. Now, before we close, I want to end with the heart of your mission, your daughter, and every child like her. So when you think about Eliza, her spirit, her resilience, her presence, what do you want people to understand about who she is beyond the diagnosis?
Yeah, Eliza is the most innocent and sweetest soul, as are all children with Sanfilippo. These children are very, very special. Her story has spurred on the movement through Cure Sanfilippo Foundation and so many partner families that will help lead to helping more children and bringing forward treatments and a cure. But as you mentioned, beyond the diagnosis, she's just the bravest, the strongest girl. She's now 16 years old. I tell her at night, every time when I put her to bed, how proud I am of her and how great she's doing. Her smile lights up the world. And she's a reminder to be kind and gentle and have gratitude for what you're blessed with in life, to be empathetic and to be compassionate towards others. I love her with everything I have, and she'll always be my hero.
Boy, she's your biggest teacher, isn't she?
Absolutely.
Cara, what about you?
Oh, Glenn said it so well.
I know it's hard to top.
Yeah. I think as our children grow older, which we are grateful for, and when they lose their voice, a lot of times they become invisible to the community around them. And it takes special people to engage with our children and really see them for who they are. And so I think also part of our job as parents is to let people into Eliza's personality when she could still express herself in words. And this is a little girl who loves Dora the Explorer like nobody I've ever seen, and could, play episodes of Dora, and love to dress up and put on hats and look at herself in the mirror and, play with her brother and run and climb and be silly and sing happy birthday in Chinese because her brother taught it to her. And just all of those kind of sweet, special moments I know are in her still. And I think that's, I don't know, it's just special to know that she is still who she is. Yeah.
She will always be, right? And what you said is so beautiful. It reminds us that at the core of all of this science and advocacy is a child like Eliza, a personality, a life, and that's worth fighting for. And I am right here next to you. And Glenn and Cara, I mean, you guys are so strong beyond. The community looks at you in awe. You are mentors to so many. And I know that it can't be easy, but I'm so grateful that you came on this platform. We're transparent and vulnerable and honest and resilient and full of education and depth. That is truly the reason why Cure Sanfilippo Foundation has grown as fast and as wide, because of both of you. And that's something worth acknowledging. I mean, you guys are in this fight together. Eliza's so lucky to have you as parents, and you're lucky to have her. And I truly believe you're going to change the face of Sanfilippo. And I think that there's so much hope. In fact, I know it. When I close my eyes and I think about Eliza or Hayden or Logan or Lydia, all these amazing little beautiful souls, warriors in a fight that I truly believe they'll win. I believe that. I believe that it's just a matter of turning this corner 2-3 years. And if we can all just hang in there, the cure is there. And once it's there, I mean, this remaps everything. And I truly think that we're about to have that remap. So thank you so much for coming on, but I've learned so much today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you for the platform and sharing this means the world to us. So thank you.
And to everyone listening, childhood dementia is not fatal, as they say. There is a cure out there, and we will find it. And hope is real, and progress is happening in real time. And families like the O'Neills are proof that persistence can change the future of medicine. And if this conversation moved you, if you believe in no child should lose their future before it begins, and if you want to be part of the solution, you should visit curesanfilippofoundation.org. Check them out on the gram at Cure Sanfilippo FND, and you can donate, you can share, you can advocate, because awareness, my friends, fuels research, and research saves lives. Today's We Play It Forward segment profoundly supports families, accelerates cures, and amplifies missions that change lives. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. That was the We Play It Forward segment, brought to you by the We Play It Forward Foundation. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
In business and in life, there's always an upside. Finding it is often the challenge. Having a mindset that looks for it and embraces problems as opportunities is the key to thriving. Finding the Upside with Maria de Lorenzis Reyes explores the transformative power of optimism, featuring visionary business owners, influential leaders, and inspiring everyday people. Tune in and see how they navigate changing conditions with optimism and innovation. Watch the special series One Tough Chick, highlighting resilient and powerful women, streaming on yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Xen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home carboxytherapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase in luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance.
For more information or to order CO2 Lift, ask your skincare professional or go to co2lift.com.
Hi, my name is Danielle, and my son Cristiano is a patient here at the Milillo Center. He struggles with his language and using the right words in the right way. My son is extremely bright. He's kind. He's very funny. And he really is just an amazing boy. And I'm so glad that we found the Malillo Center, because we have seen so much progress. We started with a 1-week intensive and then continued to come here weekly for about over a year now. I believe the program helped Cristiano tremendously. The brain is so complex, and it could be really overwhelming for someone to understand how it all works. But one of the things that I like most about the Malillo method is that it feels really simple and easy to understand, even though the program and the science is very complex. I'm so happy that I found Dr. Malillo and the whole team here.
A Moment of Zen is sponsored by FinTech TV.
FinTech TV, the newest streaming channel focused exclusively on the business of blockchain, digital assets, and sustainability. Broadcasting from our studio on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange with daily reports from NASDAQ, global expansion, and 24/7 coverage. Become part of the launch. Head to fintech.tv/invest. Fintech.tv/invest.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Well, that's a wrap, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Remember to join me right here on A Moment of Zen every Saturday, and you could head to amomentofzen.com for live listening links and episode downloads in your city. And also remember that we're live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's our OTA partner. YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are available on your home TV OTT streaming platform. That's family-friendly programming to you, worldwide digital streaming. You can go directly to our channel at mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you for listening to us. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors and partners that continue to make this show possible. And remember that happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. We'll be back next week.